All right, this VP talk has gone on long enough. So finally, today it is being reported that tomorrow, Vice President Harris will pick who her running mate is. And according to John Heilman, it is down to Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, or Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota. And just to be clear on that, Walz apparently became a finalist because of his breakout performance the past 2 weeks in taking the wood to Vance and Trump. And he's also been backed by Nancy Pelosi and Bernie Sanders. Walz is the consensus candidate. Walz is the best choice. I did a video on him about 12 days ago. He's the perfect choice for a variety of reasons. I'll touch on a bit here, but I really want to get to why Josh Shapiro is not the choice. Don't do not go with the only person that could potentially screw this up. And I want to be clear here. Regardless of how you think about Shapiro or what you think about Shapiro, regardless of if you think some of the attacks are fair or not, I want to discuss exactly the reason why he would be a terrible choice right now. So let me first start with the announcement from Kyle Griffin here saying that Harris will reveal her pick tomorrow, Tuesday, ahead of their first rally together in Philadelphia that evening. So yes, it's going to be in Pennsylvania. This whole plan for this whole week was already planned to start in Pennsylvania on Tuesday. The Harris campaign at the time when they announced this whole rollout said, do not take the state, do not make anything of the fact that we are starting in Pennsylvania. It doesn't mean it's going to be, Josh Shapiro. So, and the fact that they are announcing it ahead of the rally also to me means that it also doesn't mean it's going to be Josh Shapiro, because maybe they would just announce it at the rally if it was him. So again, it's going to start, or their whole campaigning together will start in Philadelphia tomorrow. We should hear, I assume, in the morning, midday Tuesday, who it's going to be. Now, before I get to Shapiro, I did want to discuss, or just briefly show you, just how unpopular JD Vance is. So regardless of who Kamala Harris picks, even if it is Josh Shapiro, who again, I don't think would be the right choice, let's be clear about the other side. The JD Vance is so unpopular that he's actually lost support very quickly within 7 days from -6 to -15 in favorability rating. He is the only VP since they tracked this in the 1980s to launch with a negative approval rating, or I should say negative favorability. No other VP running mate choice has ever done this. Sarah Palin launched with a positive. So JD Vance, just the absolute worst VP pick imaginable. Kamala Harris, even choosing Josh Shapiro would not be a pick that is as bad as JD Vance, but it could have potentially a worse impact on her campaign than the JD Vance impact is going to be on the Trump campaign. But first off, quickly here, everybody loves Tim Walz, including people that did not vote for him, even though they were in Minnesota and fighting for somebody else. They eventually became Walz-pilled. So this is a piece from David M. Perry, who goes on to write why he loves him, and it goes into this list here about why he's such a fantastic governor. So with just a 1-seat majority, Walz accomplished universal free school meals, legal cannabis, carbon-free electricity by 2040, tax rebates for the working class up to $1,300, 12 weeks paid family leave, 12 weeks paid sick leave, banned conversion therapy, red flag laws for guns, universal background checks, automatic voter registration, free public college, ban on forever chemicals, $2.2 billion increase in K-12 school funding, and sectoral bargaining for nursing home workers. We were talking about a guy who doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. He is a working class guy. He's somebody who has a great story when it comes to firearms specifically, because he's somebody who used to have I believe an A rating from the NRA, and then learned that he could be better on this issue and changed, and now has an F rating from the NRA because of his changing stance on this issue. So somebody who has showcased that they can move with the times and learn and change, even, I'm not going to say in his old age, he's 60, he's not old, but in his later years is able to still listen to reality and change his mind and isn't just stuck in his ways. That is a great quality to have in any politician. Tim Walz is the guy. And again, I did a video on him 11 days ago, so go watch that. I have a bunch of clips on how fantastic he is just in terms of campaigning. He's the guy that started the whole calling them weird, which has now, calling Republicans weird has caught on so well that now Canadians, Canadian liberals, are now trying to use that against the Conservative Party, and it is working. So again, the political instincts are perfect. His track record is fantastic. Great choice. Let me begin to get to Shapiro's issues here. This is from the American Prospect. Shapiro's call for corporate tax cuts contrasts with Democratic goals. Corporate tax cuts recently from Josh Shapiro. This is in direct contrast with Joe Biden and their agenda. Why? Shapiro faces scrutiny over sexual harassment complaint against an aide. So this is another big story. The state agreed to pay $295,000 last September to settle the complaint against Michael A. Vereb, who was then Shapiro's head of legislative affairs and one of his closest advisors. The employee had accused Mr. Vereb of making repeated and graphic sexual overtures and then criticizing her job performance after she refused him. She resigned rather than continue to work for him. Her only other option, she said in her written complaint. So this guy kept his position for 6 months, and he only resigned after this report came out about his behavior. And then while he was leaving, the governor's office praised him for his dedicated service. This was a guy who was close with Josh Shapiro. This is a terrible... This alone, forget even the positions, forget even anything else I'm going to get to here. This story alone, when you are running against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, and you want to be able to make that case, and look, let's be clear, you can make that case anyways. This example in Josh Shapiro's office is not nearly obviously as bad as anything Donald Trump has done. Yet still, this does not help. This is the problem. Before I even get to anything else in this video, this is the problem with choosing Josh Shapiro. You are putting your campaign on the defense. Right now, you are on the offense. All the momentum is behind you. By picking someone like Josh Shapiro, you are then forced to be defensive, forced to defend your VP choice, defend your VP, defend the record, as opposed to focusing on Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and your own hopeful agenda, hopefully, for what you want to accomplish. This being on the defense is, regardless of what you feel or how you feel about the accusations or how you feel about the criticisms, being on the defense and forced to answer to a number of these things does not help the campaign. Tim Walz, I was going to get to this later, but you go back in his record, you find stuff like there's an ad from 2006, I think, from his first run for Congress, and it's a brilliant, fantastic campaign ad.
Hi, my name is Tim Walz, and I'm running for Congress here in southern Minnesota for several important reasons. But today I'd like to tell you about one issue that's very personal to me. I am a retired Command Sergeant Major in the Minnesota National Guard, and after years of firing artillery, I sustained severe inner ear damage. Because I have good health insurance provided through my employer, I was able to have surgery on my ear. As my ear healed, my hearing was gradually restored. One morning several weeks after the surgery, I awoke to a sound I couldn't identify. I asked my wife what I was hearing, and she told me, "Tim, that's your 4-year-old daughter, Hope." You see, Hope wakes up singing every morning, but I had never heard that sound until that day. I'm running for Congress because I believe we as a country have a moral obligation to ensure that every father can hear his daughter sing, that every citizen receives the best care our medical community has to offer. I'm Tim Walz, and I approve this message because I've heard how important healthcare is to everyone.
So that's what people have uncovered about Tim Walz, that he had an incredibly wholesome story to tell during his 2006 campaign ad. Look, maybe there are things, all these politicians tend to have some issue, something that happened in their past that doesn't look good now. But there are already so many with Josh Shapiro and so little with everybody else that it would just be political malpractice to go with the biggest risk. somebody that's going to put your campaign on the defense for no reason when you have all the momentum behind you. Not to mention potentially hurt you with important constituencies that you need and that Biden was losing. This being the perfect example of that. Shapiro's college-era criticism of Palestinians draws fresh scrutiny. So in a college newspaper, he wrote that Palestinians were too battle-minded. That doesn't quite play well right now when there is a genocide going on. So he said back then they are too battle-minded to be able to establish a peaceful homeland of their own. They will grow tired of fighting amongst themselves and will turn outside against Israel. He volunteered in the Israeli army, apparently, though I can give you more context of that. He was in high school. He wasn't in combat, so just to be clear on that. And but he did write, the only way the peace plan will be successful is if the Palestinians do not ruin it, and Palestinians will not coexist peacefully. Now, yeah, I hear people yelling, he was 20 years old, who cares? I hear you. This still does not look good on him in a time when it is incredibly important to speak to this issue in a way that shows the humanity of Palestinians. And he has not exactly changed his tune all that much. Yes, he's not saying overtly racist shit like this anymore, thankfully, hopefully. But that doesn't mean that he is the person to look to be able to bring these groups of voters together. I mean, he's already having to defend this. Again, showing you this, he's not even the choice yet. And he's already being asked about about his comments back then. Already being put on the defense here. Now, this isn't from when he was 20 years old. This is 2011, where he said, UN speech by Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is one of the finest fact-based speeches ever regarding Mideast peace. Peace must precede Palestinian state. So it's not as if all of this stuff about his positions on Palestinians or Israel was, it's old stuff and he was 20 years old. No, not much has changed, really. So great breakdown here from Kasim Rashid. Walz v. Shapiro is a major contrast. Walz was a public school teacher. Shapiro is pro-vouchers. Walz raised corporate taxes. Shapiro is pro-corporate tax cuts. Walz is anti-fracking. Shapiro is pro-fracking. Walz rejects MAGA money. Shapiro took $100K from Yes. So let me show you who that is here. This is a GOP mega donor. So, and this happened while, just to be clear, during his campaign for governor. Philadelphia Teachers Union rescinded its endorsement of Shapiro after he accepted a $100,000 donation from a pro-charter school special interest group. So that group called Students First PA, which of course is all these names for these groups. Oh, we're about students. It's about private schools. Was largely bankrolled by a trio of Pennsylvanian billionaires. I cannot read today. Including Jeffrey Yaz, a major Republican donor who helped fund a PAC that eventually stopped running ads against Shapiro during the election after he came out in support of vouchers. So why would you put yourself into a position like this? It doesn't make any sense. The campaign, hopefully, look, again, if she chooses Shapiro, I'm still going to recommend you vote for Kamala Harris, obviously. You got to look at what the other side is putting out there. That doesn't mean that, just politically speaking, this is not a good choice. You're also thinking about potentially, who's going to run in, I assume Kamala's going to run again in 4 years, but after that, the VP is often somebody who does run. Would you rather have a Tim Walz or a Josh Shapiro? Just based on their record, based on what they have fought for. Look, I'm not saying Shapiro has done good things as well in Pennsylvania. It's not as if he's just a terrible person. But it's just from the perspective of politics and understanding your liabilities and understanding that you don't want to be in the defense. Why the hell would he even be in the top two? That's what is kind of surprising to me. It's just, politically speaking, so stupid to have him that far up the list when you have so many other good options there. It should be Walz or Bashir in a perfect world. I guess we're going to find out tomorrow.